how long have you been doing this?
I've been out there since day one. The first day of the shutdown, I'm watching the news, and they're talking about how the memorials are vulnerable, and it just got me concerned. So that night, I went to the memorial, and I saw firsthand. I patrolled it on my beach cruiser all night long till 6 in the morning, and I didn't see one soul. I was afraid someone would go in and vandalize, or they would take some spray paint and they would deface one of our memorials. And so after 2 days of, trying to run some security, I realized that I was playing a more vital role as a janitor or a maintenance guy. So, all the trash cans were filling over the brim. The water bottles were blowing into the Vietnam Memorial, and it just, it bothered me. So I went and bought some trash bags and got a rake, and I went around, and before I knew it, I had emptied a couple hundred trash cans in about 8 hours.
Wow.
And the mayor came on and said that he was going to allow the city workers of D.C. to start picking up the trash, so I figured I could branch out. So I went and bought a blower, and I started blowing all the trails there around the memorial so that, it rained real hard and a couple of branches fell and there were sticks and trims everywhere. And, these guys had hand-to-hand combat with the Nazis, okay? We got to show a little respect to them. And they're showing up in wheelchairs with respirators and there's sticks and it was turning into chaos. It was like a little ghetto, and I just started spending 10, 12 hours a day down there picking up trash, and I'd run out of trash to pick up, and I start blowing. I ran out of that, and so today I thought I was going to make history. I showed up with a lawnmower, and I started cutting the front lawn of the Lincoln Memorial, and Forrest Gump style, I guess. And after about 2.5 hours, the park police decided they didn't like it after high-fiving me at the beginning. And they were kind of rude to me, and it was no big deal. I told them when I got there that, the moment I wasn't an asset, I'd be more than happy to leave, but I wanted to try to bring some attention to the needs of the park police and the forest rangers, the park,
Yeah.
So I started working on their behalf, and one thing led to another. I met some really good volunteers would come up, and men in their wheelchairs would insist to their wives that they had to stand up to shake my hand, and I'm like, oh, no, sir, please don't. And they stand up, shake my hand, and then they reach in their pocket and try to give me some gas money for the blower, and I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. Don't worry about it. And I met another guy that, the guy's being prosecuted for killing his girlfriend. He had no legs, the prosthetic legs.
Mm.
Yeah, Oscar something
Pistorius.
over. Yeah, well, I met a black man running through the mall with 2 of those, and I couldn't help but befriend him, and we hit it off, and he became my first volunteer, and he had scars all over him, and he was such an inspiration, and I could just see the determination in his eyes, and it made my lip quiver just thinking what he had to go through just to learn to walk on those things, more or less run, and so he served as a pretty good source of inspiration for me, and then I had, some more volunteers would show up here and there to help me out, and it just kind of blossomed. And I was trying, in order to lead a movement, you got to lead by example. And so that's all I was trying to do. My goal was to prevent the headlines, not make them. I just didn't want the newspaper or the television to go out there and show these veterans showing up with disgust on their face because of all the trash blowing around.
Now, is there a big veterans thing this weekend?
Yeah, that's why I got, when I heard yesterday that they had the Million Vet March coming up, that's when I decided I need to go cut the grass because it's looking so raggedy, and nobody else is going to do it. So first thing I did when I got there was a giant tree that had fallen right beside the reflecting pool. And, I'm pretty handy with the chainsaw, so I went ahead and cut it up and moved it out of the way. And, apparently I was more of a liability, a professional chainsaw artist than the 2,000 people a day that were stepping over the big tree. So I wasn't going to apologize for that because I knew it was common sense that it needed to be handled. somebody needed to do it, and so I did it. And then I went up and started cutting the grass.
Now,
and,
what about, now you said, where'd you get the lawnmower?
I bought it at a thrift store, and I also
For how
bought
much?
$100, and then I bought a leaf blower for like $215. And you know I'm not an artist for the love of money, right?
That's awesome. Now, you said you were cutting for about 2.5 hours in the park for Lisa. They shut you down?
Yeah, they came. Well, I first two of them came up, and they gave me they were like shaking their head. They thought it was great. Well, then another one showed up, and this guy was like RoboCop. I tried to shake his hand. He said he wouldn't. He said he didn't shake people's hand, and he said he was gonna seize my lawnmower. And then he told me that I had no business picking up trash. And that's when. But by this time, two other officers walked up. And his voice started to change when they came into the picture, because he wasn't coming across so abrasive in front of them. Because I'd been out there for 8 days trying to help them, so it made sense. So then when those guys got there, that's when I started in on him. I'm like, well, listen, I told him the same thing I told you. I'm out here trying to prevent headlines, not make them. I go, do you want to see a picture in the Washington Post with trash spilling out of these? He goes, yeah. He goes, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Maybe that would help us. Maybe that would help us get. I'm like, no, that wouldn't help us. I go, that would only embarrass us.
Yeah.
And then he forbid me from picking up trash, and I'm like, well, whatever. And I went. First thing I did, I got my trash bag out, and I went and emptied 2 trash cans right in front of him.
That's terrible.
Because he can't do. I know he couldn't, and maybe he was having a bad day. But everybody's office has got one, and I don't want you to say out loud who it is in your office, but we all got one. Every neighborhood and every office.
I'll tell you who it is. So what's next?
Well, I'm going to have to trade in my blower for a broom and a dustpan. And I'll be back out there, you know. I mean, my goal was I'm reached out to the Eagle Scouts, okay? The guys who have graduated high school and they're Eagle Scouts, they're a little more mature. And I'm hoping that they can maybe add a chapter to the Boy Scout book. And in the event of a government shutdown or a natural disaster or whatever it be, that the Boy Scouts can deploy, and they can go keep an eye on the memorials. And then they're not going to, they got to do a background check on everybody because they're Boy Scouts, they're Eagle Scouts.
Right.
And
they can get a new badge.
Yeah. And what better compliments a Boy Scout? And what's the grown-up Boy Scout? A park ranger. Can you think of a better marriage? So I'm working with the Boy Scouts. I'm hoping, they'll step up and come on. I'm not trying to lead this forever. I want to pass it off. And I've been calling it the Memorial Militia.
Now, are they going to allow you to empty the trash cans anymore?
Yeah, well, they changed their tune when the TV cameras got out there.
Yeah, I bet.
Now, everybody else has been really nice, all the other cops. This was just a guy, he had he had big muscles, and he had veins in his neck, and he just was having a bad day.
And he talked like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he was very intimidating, to be honest with you. I was a little scared until the other officers walked up. But when I heard his tone of voice change, that's when I realized that I might have the upper hand here, because his voice would have stayed the same. He would have stayed harsh with me. But he changed his demeanor in front of the other officers, and that's when I started to feel comfortable, and that's when I started. Because, see, the story here isn't them giving me a hard time. The story here is trying to encourage Americans to go out and to fortify the boundaries of our memorials, to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Park Service. That's the story I want.
Hey, let me read you something real quick. Somebody had posted on her Facebook page. She said, quote, "As the daughter, wife, and mother of vets, just know that you are appreciated. Keep up the good work."
Oh, my gosh. Are you serious? That's awesome. See, man, that's what kept me going, Dean. Stuff like that kept me going. Every day, several things like that would happen, and it would make me, I felt, see, what I was trying to explain to him, Dean, is that as a civilian, you don't have a lot of opportunities to serve your country. And when this happened, I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as an opportunity that I may never have again. And so I grabbed it by the horns, and I wanted to do the best job I could. Well, ever since I called it militia, every day I've carried the South Carolina flag with me, and I've been telling people that South Carolina is holding it down for now, but we need some help. So for most of the time, when people would ask who I am, I just tell them I'm South Carolina and we're holding it down. Thank you for your support. So